All right, we are going to look at the next Quiltable game from Circle J Games, Quiltable Oversewn, where you're not going to just be managing your quilt, you're also going to be managing your garden and making sure it doesn't get overgrown. Let me show you how that all works and then come back here and I'll let you know what I think of it. All right, here I am going to teach you how to play Quiltable Oversewn. So to start, everyone is going to get a sheet. They are going to get a writing utensil. I am using the low ink version. I'm going to show you right here. This is the full color version. I just went with the low ink this time. You are going to then grab 2 dice per player plus an extra die. Each player is going to grab one of the dice, set it to 1, and put it down here on their growth track, which then leaves 3 dice to be rolled each turn. So in each round, you are going to roll the 3 dice. Then in player order, each person is going to be drafting a dice to take an action on their sheet, leaving 1 die in the middle. That die is going to cause growth on your overgrowth track. And then as long as the end game has not been triggered, the player to your left becomes the next star player, and you're going to go until one of the end game conditions is met, which is either your quilt is full, you've completed all 9 patterns, your overgrowth track maxes out, or you can't cross out enough connected garden squares. So let me get into what all that means. So as I said, you're going to start by rolling the dice, and then in turn order, everyone is going to draft a die to do an action. There are 3 actions on your board. We have the learn action right up here. So you would just simply take the die and place it there. And then you're going to unlock an ability in the sewing area by crossing out a lock left 1 first. So depending on which die you choose, this is a 3, which means you would unlock here. So you would just simply cross out that lock, and that is now available to you. That's learn. Next we have garden. When you go to garden, you are going to choose one of the 2 options. You can either cut down overgrowth, which I haven't gotten into yet, or you can increase your gardening level. You increase your gardening level, you're going to just simply fill in the skill icon in this row right here next to your overgrowth track. And then finally, you would have sew. You are going to sew a new block into your quilt. It's the block you're going to sew is denoted by the die number. When you place it in, you are going to be placing it next to a previously drawn block in your quilt. You'll then take any other unlocked bonuses. So in this instance, in a 3, I would draw that little strawberry to the best of my ability, which that's about the best of my ability. And then I would then start triggering these with their icons. There is an icon guide up here. So this would be cut down overgrowth equal to your gardening skill level. And this would be increase your gardening skill level, which, as I said, are those blocks. As you sew in your quilt blocks here, you're going to see if you fulfilled any of the patterns indicated on here. If you have, so say I have my strawberries, like so. Then I'm going to see I have this pattern right here. So I'm going to check that off, and then I'm going to draw the strawberry here. When you complete these patterns, you need to write down which block you've used to complete it, and you're not allowed to use the same block in the same set of 3. So I can do my strawberries here, here, and here, but I would not be able to do another one with the strawberries in this upper part. At this point, you're going to get the points there, and then you're also going to be doing the indicated action, bonus action next to it. You also do not need to complete the patterns in order, but again, as I said, you can only use a pattern block once per set of 3, as indicated by this do not equal sign there. In addition to checking if the patterns are done, if you have completed a row in your quilt, you'll see you'll have these bonuses next to them. So if I had completed these, I would cross off here and then take this designated bonus right there. So those are the 3 actions. So now let us get into this overgrowth die. So when the dice are taken, there's going to be 1 die left in the middle. You're going to be using that die to advance your growth marker. So this is a 4, so I'd go up 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then that is it for now. Next round, if it was a 4 again, I would go 1, 2. I have 2 more spaces to move, so we are going to rotate this to a 2 and go 3, 4. Then, each time the growth die passes the top of the overgrowth track, you're going to increase the die, continue from spot 1, and harvest connected garden squares equal to the new growth die value. So now I have a value of 2. So I would simply look up here and try and cross out 2 spots that are connected. So now doubling back the cut down overgrowth. So say this is my gardening skill level of 3, and I do the cut down overgrowth. I would decrease this by 1, by 2, and by 3, rotating the die down as it comes back around. Then, as I said, you are going to go about doing this until one of these game ends are triggered, and then you are going to go into scoring. You are going to get a point per garden square that is not harvested. You are going to get 2 points per garden star that is harvested. You are going to get 1 to 3 points per pattern that's completed, as denoted in the stars there. You're going to get 1 point per block sewn into your quilt, and 1 point per special block, which are these ones with the stars on them. So that is the basics of Oversewn. There is a solo mode where you will be facing off against a neighboring quilting gardener. In that instance, you'll be using 4 dice, 1 for your growth, 2 for the action, and 1 as a fertilizer die for the AI opponent. And then they have their certain actions they will be taking. All right, so let me get into what I think of this version. So there you go. That's basically how you play Quiltable Oversewn. You're going to be rolling the dice, grabbing them, and managing that whole garden area while building up your quilt and trying to match those patterns. So if you watch any of my previous coverage of the Quiltable games they've done, I'll include a link to the playlist up above so you can check all those out. Those all are available from them. You'll know one of the things I really enjoy about what they're doing with this line of the Quiltable games is that they're always evolving, always adding something in. And this was a really big evolution. This adds in that overgrowth dice that you need to manage. So it's no longer just about, getting your quilt designs and making your quilt to match those patterns. You need to manage that overgrowth dice, because if you don't, then the garden's going to fill quickly. You're not going to have enough time to get those quilt patterns made. You also aren't going to be able to score many points because your garden's going to get overrun and overgrown. So you got to make sure that you're tending to that and keeping that garden skill up. So it just kind of adds that whole other level of strategy, that whole other layer of things you need to manage and keep in check on your board as you're going about the other stuff. Now, with that being said, with them adding this thing, they also then gave you the ability for some of those combos to be able to help tend to that. Like, when you sew in the patterns, you're able to unlock those skills to where you can cut down that growth dice, increase your gardening skill, and making sure that you are able to manage that. The other thing they're continuing to do is making the sheet very friendly from a user experience level. It's one of those sheets that when you read the rules, all right, you got it down, but then when you look at the sheet, it's got everything kind of laid out by the sections, so you know exactly what you're going to be able to do. So that's a really good element that I love that they do, is because then it's easier to explain the game and you're not having to go back to the rules as much because everything's just laid out there in front of you. And then another minor detail in regards to like the art, I like that they kind of keep changing and evolving the quilt patterns too, to kind of evolve with like the seasons and the things you're doing. It's like this one has, the ladybugs and the chicks and the bugs and the frogs and things that you kind of have more with that whole gardening theme. So the way that they are just, evolving with that as well to make sure that it ties along with the theme. And then the last thing in regards to kind of what they all kind of keep as a running theme through it is the multiple areas of scoring. So you can kind of choose which path you want to focus on. Which path are you going to go down? I want to focus on this. I want to maybe, tend my garden a certain way, or I want to make sure I focus on these certain patterns. And the fact that those patterns are big and give you more points based on size really does try and make you have to make decisions of how am I going to sew in these quilt patterns, because again, you can only use one of those designs, one's for each set. So you have to go next to each other. So you got to try and figure out, how am I going to manage manipulating this one in and manipulating this one in and gain it as a cohesive unit into that quilt. All right, so wrap it up and why you might be interested in this version of Quiltable. If you're looking for that roll and write game where there is more to manage than just your basic rolling and doing an action and making the quilt, where you have that die you have to manage, which might dictate your decisions in which dice you're going to grab, because jointly you might want to have a lower die. This is one you're going to want to get. If you're going to want one that's going to unlock different actions, so when you are making your quilt, you're doing more things, then this one is for you. And then again, as with a lot of the Quiltable ones, if you're looking for that game where you need to try and make these patterns and score the certain way and being able to really kind of manage that spatial element and quilt pattern of how you're going to put out those shapes, again, this one is going to be for you. So with all that being said, like I said, check down below for all the other Quiltable games. Also head down below for the link to the Kickstarter where you can go ahead and follow so you can be alerted when these games do jump up to Kickstarter. Also down there, if you could, go ahead and give us a like, a subscribe, a share, ring the bell. Let me know what your favorite quilt pattern is. That would be something that is interesting to share. Alrighty, so until next time, manage that overgrowth.